welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. A lot of exciting stuff coming up as, of course, it is a regional weekend, and we're going to be talking about the events, the past events happening, and just a couple of changes happening in our VGC world. I'm Sarah Dawn, and I am joined with my co-host, of course, Joe Brown, and we have a special guest on this week, too. We have Adam Dorricott. Dozz here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been a funny old couple of months, but yeah, doing very well. Thank you very much.
I'm really happy to have you here because you can't be running down our ARAMs anymore.
Hey.
You're not able to play right now because we're recording, you know?
I know, yeah, I do love running down an ARAM with you, Joe. That's one of my favorite pastimes.
This is the wrong game for the wrong podcast, you two, all right? You guys can run it down and throw in someone else's lobby later, but excited to have you here, especially too. We got quite a few things to talk about. Of course, we have Peoria coming up. Wonderful Peoria. We all love Peoria so much. And of course, talking about the past event and our question of the day. But getting to the fact that Dozz is on the broadcast first. Some other exciting stuff to be talking about as well, bringing you on, because going into this year, there's a lot of changes that have been happening. And I mean, this is a big one for you because you've been casting forever, but I think it's going to be looking a little differently this season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I ripped the Band-Aid off. You two already know. Obviously, we've talked about it in private, but coming into the season and actually, I mean, post-Worlds, I made a decision. I've been doing this, as you said, for a very, very long time, since beginning of 2017, which feels like a lifetime ago. But I guess we'll just dive right in. Moving forward, I have decided to step away from casting the video game. It's been an incredible run. It's been a phenomenal time. There's obviously so much we can dive into in my time with it. But obviously, after Worlds this year, casting that finals in Japan was sort of the peak that I've always wanted to hit. And after hitting that peak, I decided, you know what, like, I've had a great time, and I sort of always wanted to end on my own terms. I didn't want to be that guy who like stayed around a little bit too long. So people are obviously seeing me at events. I'm there in various different capacities. But the one thing I think I can confirm right now is you won't be seeing me casting the video game anymore. It's no disrespect, it's no loss of love, you know, but I just think it's the right time to make that decision for myself. And that's sort of where I've brought myself to. So yeah, that's the news. Obviously I made that decision kind of pre-Worlds. It's been a long time coming. I did consider it after London as well, which was obviously a big world to me, being in my home country. But moving forward, you know, you'll see me at events, but just in various different capacities. And I think it's the right time to step away and look back at what I've done in VGC and say, hey, I'm really happy with this. Like, this is a career I was not expecting to have. It was a very strange turn of events at a very strange point in my life. I'm very happy with what I've done, and I wanted always to tie it off really nicely, and casting that finals in Japan with Scott, you know, kind of went all the way back to day one for me. So, you know, I got like the chance to end on my own terms.
And for everybody watching, this is not a sad day, so don't feel sad for Dozz. This is a happy day. Actually, be happy and excited for Adam, as we know, like you said, if anyone's seen the announcements, you're casting TCG this weekend in Peoria, and then you'll still be involved with Pokemon and backstage and production and everything like that for all our events. You just won't be on the VG side. So I just wanted to let everyone know, you know, as well, it's like you are retiring from the VGC aspect of it as a commentator, but you're still thoroughly involved with all of us and get to hang out with us at all the events still going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for those, you know, who I obviously don't speak to on the same level as you guys, I've always been involved in kind of helping with that production side of things. And, you know, we go back way back when, Joe, to the Grassroots days, doing those production level stuff. Like, that side of it has always been really important to me. So the goal right now, we obviously have additional roles available on the team in subject matter expert and other roles across all three games, actually, at regionals. So I will be around. You guys will see me at events. I will be there. I'll probably be in a different seat, and that's really cool. You know, I know a couple of people have asked me, you know, when you're coming back. It's like, well, I'll still be around, right? And talking to our producer, who's a phenomenal gentleman, he did say, when I kind of told him about this announcement, he said, I don't want you to not be involved. So me and him are working together, finding roles for me, finding a way to be involved, and I'll still be there at a lot of events this year, just making sure that I can do what I can. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm really hoping that my experience, my knowledge, my drive for both TCG, VGC, and even Go, right? Like, I think I can help there in just making sure the broadcast is killer every single time.
It's cool how it's kind of come around full circle. Like, you're talking about that, tying off that little chapter of your VGC casting with Scott casting masters, like, in Japan, which is the craziest bookend of all. And all honesty, if you're talking about being a Pokemon fan and a Pokemon caster, but then looking at like different roles you can be in as well, because I mean, you're one of the people that was very involved with, like, the grassroots casting and stuff, like, from the beginning, like 7 years ago. So that is even just crazy to think about then. And I guess I don't actually really know, like, how'd you even get involved way back then to even start getting involved in that direction, in that grassroots scene anyways?
So a long time ago, we had an event. It was a regional here in Florida, which is where I live now. I've been here 8 years now, and a friend of mine, TJ, messaged me one night. We weren't super close at the time, but we're talking about me going to a regional. I played the regional the year before, didn't do great, and it sort of bummed me out a little bit. Like, I wasn't the player I used to be. So he messaged me. He said, "Hey, I'm running this stream. I'm trying to do this thing, trying to build this." And I lived genuinely from the regional venue 10 minutes away with traffic. So I drove up, sat down in front of the camera, had a bit of a laugh about it. I was doing some casting with Mike Selesky at the time, who obviously, big name historically, and just really enjoyed it. Like, had a really, really good time. And then TJ kind of kept calling me, kept asking if I wanted to be involved, kept asking if I wanted to do it. And I did. I had a really good time. Obviously, the accent gives me a little bit of wiggle room on the US events, but kept doing it. Started to hear rumors that maybe, there was a potential seat available on the official stream, and went from there and sort of said, you know what, I'm gonna chase this down. I'm gonna make this a thing. And just keep trying. It took a couple years. It took quite a lot of regionals on the grassroots event with the Logitech C920 up on, by the way, stolen tripods. I think I'm allowed to say that now.
What?
Yeah, I don't think anyone from my previous job is going to listen to this. But yes, there is a tripod that went missing one day at work, and that was the one we used for regionals for a very long time.
That's so good. Oh man, that just shows to like it just further tells the story of what we went through, Sierra, in our grassroots days of just trying to make this products work and what it is now, because it's so different than what it is now. Like, nowadays, this weekend in Peoria, we're casting 4 games a day, right? We start round 3 and you split it between the 2 casting pairs. And back in the day, we're like going to a regional like Roanoke or Dallas or all the places, Toronto, all the places that we went to with Critical Hit. You cast 10 games in one day because we had the lunch break and 9 rounds. All of Top Cut the next day. Like, we get there at 6:30 in the morning, get out at 10 p.m. Like, it's a whole different animal nowadays.
I did my year of the grassroots run with the production side of things. Like, the one event where I was literally running the TCG stream, and then I had the VGC stream running on a laptop on my lap, and I'm running both streams at once because whoever was running the VGC stream accidentally killed something on that, and I'm trying to do both at once, and it was it was only a year, but I think I got enough of a little taste of that to know that what was built up from all of that grassroots blood, sweat, and tears was a lot. It was hard work.
Well, I mean, Dozz and TJ really held a lot of the scene together, and of course the Nugget Bridge team and like other regionals throughout different parts of the country. Like, those couple of years where Pokemon dropped for lack of a better word, covering regionals and left it to the grassroots scene, like Critical Hit and Nugget Bridge and all of the groups and all of the games, VGC, TCG, really helped keep this community alive and thriving with information and with streams, because like if we weren't having any of those events, people don't see some of our favorite matches of all time are from grassroots events, right? They're not always on a Pokemon funded production. So if we didn't have people like Dozz and TJ, you know, trying to better the community and putting up their own money in their own, you know, we were paying for our own flights, our own hotels, our own sharing, you know.
Not the tripods, though.
Not the tripods. We didn't pay for
tripods.
Those,
were free, let me assure you.
Putting 6 people in one hotel room, you know, like we were trying to make it work, and obviously it's paid off for a lot of people. So I think we got to give credit where credit is due sometimes.
I mean, I think the one that stands out to me, it was a Dallas regional. You know, Critical Hit had signed up to do the VG side, and I got a call from Christine, who obviously is, you know, one of our current tournament organizers, and the call was basically this: is like, can you do TCG too? Now, I'll tell you, like, I was getting equipment shipped to the hotel the day I was landing, and it was tense. I learned a lot about how far a USB cable can run with a webcam on the other end of it. It was definitely a time, to put it that way. But you know, we managed to run 2 streams in a day. It was a unique challenge. It was the first time I'd ever broadcast a TCG event, and yeah, it was exciting, but it was just a little bit stressful.
To say the least.
Just a little. It doesn't sound like the most fun experience for that one, but then someone who has had, like, just a role so long in, like, the casting capacity too, put you a little bit on the spot here with, like, trying to recall, like, one of your favorite moments through all the years. And you're not allowed to say if it was going to be your moment to the Japan Masters Finals, because that's, of course, that's the last one. That one's special for its own reasons. But if there's any other moment through all your years of casting that kind of, like, sticks out to you.
Yeah, there is one. I believe Joe has made a fantastic video about this that we ran on the stream. Top 4 in 2017. So there's more to this game apart from the chaos that was that game, right? You know, the game was phenomenal.
I believe it's called Celesteela's Last Chance. Thank you.
It was Celesteela's Last Chance. So, you know, without getting too backstage, to be honest, I was not meant to cast that game, right? We were going to do top 4s back to back. I can't remember what the other duo was, but they were going to do both of them. And we got so late in the day that our talent handler and production manager at the time came to myself and Gabby and said, hey, would you guys do this on the other stage? So, because at the time we had 2 stages, if you remember. We had the main stage
streams
and the dedicated one. So they came to us and said, you know, would you do this? I was like, of course, like, I'm very ready to go. We were already down a person for that world. So Gabby and I cast this game. Not only was it just one of the most incredible games I've ever cast, you know, my first Worlds too, I get this game just handed to me on a platter. It's iconic. It's genuinely some of the most fun I've had. Being able to drop your boy Buzzwole in there, just being able to, you know, and unpack the chaos that was going on in that game. There's a little bit I think a lot of people don't know, which is like after that game, after that day, I had agreed with Gabby and Anna, because we were in Anaheim that year, which is moments away from Disney. We had agreed that on Wrap, we would go to Disney, because we all had passes and stuff, and we would try and ride Space Mountain. Genuinely, that game went so late and was so delayed that after that game, me, Gabby, and Anna, like, ran back to the hotel, got changed, and just ran to Disney. I think we got in line for Space Mountain at like 11:40 when the park closed at midnight.
Oh, wow.
Stop with that.
And we rode Space Mountain after that. And like, I rode the whole thing, like, still energized from that game. And, you know, it was genuinely one of, like, the highest highs. Like, being able to cast a game of that quality, knowing I was going into tomorrow as well, casting the finals, it energized me in a way that I, like, haven't been in a very long time.
That clip cracks me up every time it's played on the broadcast, because of course there's the VGC Championship history video. I forget the official name, sorry Joe, but
Celesteela's Last Chance.
Well, no, I meant like the name of the series.
Pokemon Championships history is the official
Yeah.
over the whole brain with Go, TCG,
Yeah.
VGC. Yeah.
But every time it goes out, because it'll be like, talking in this dramatic kind of voice, and then it's just Dozz, it's your boy Buzzwole!
Does it at the last second!
I did get a little unhinged. I mean, it was like 10 o'clock at night when we started that game.
Was
It was so late. And so I was like, we're just leaving it all out here, right? We're just letting it all go. You know, all you needed was a double protector win. He decides not to. Okay, I guess we're going full send, and I'm going full send.
That's where I want to go here, Dozz. Okay, because I've had conversations with people, let's say in this call and others that talk about that moment, and they clown on me for choosing that. But you can back me up. Gabby can back me up. People that were there in 2017 can back me up. It's like the highest win probability swing of all time. It doesn't. Okay, he should have overprotected. Okay, well, he didn't. And what happened created one of the most iconic moments in our video games history. So, like, I feel very vindicated hearing you talking about that moment as the caster that was on that game. I remember when we showed that video and I watched it with Gabby, and she's like emotional, remembering just how important that series was to not only your two careers as casters, but to Pokemon, to VGC as a whole, because like I always say, if Ryota doesn't live the damage roll and get that crit, he doesn't go to finals, and then he doesn't have Brick Break Marowak to beat Sam Pandelis' Alolan Ninetales in the finals, and Australia might have a world championship if Ryota's not there. So the butterfly effect of him not double protecting is like the craziest, snowball effect that we've ever had. So I feel very happy that at least one of the other people in this podcast can appreciate that moment.
Since you're going to call out the other person in this call, first off, it's funny because it's not even been just a conversation. This has been like raised voices. So like arguing about this moment in this little video, all like, for fun, like. Yeah. But it's just like
passionate discussion.
Very passionate discussions about this video, because everything that you said there isn't untrue. Don't get me wrong there. Was it a humongous game with this huge butterfly effect? Yes, 100% it was. Was it also just like a fantastically casted game, which had high moments for both Dozz and Gabby? Yes, it was. But when you look back to why there wasn't the protect on both Pokemon in there, is because there was a misunderstanding of the rules, and then just like the way that the video is laid out, which makes sense why it's not laid out like that, because it's not really fun and dramatic for the video. I just think it leaves out a couple of things that, I think is also important for the context overall when you're kind of looking back as to why it happened. I'm not saying it's not monumental, because it is. Obviously, that was huge. That allowed the run, but like, how and why in the first place is just kind of like, it feels bad.
I get, and I understand that, believe me, I've had this conversation.
We've had this conversation
with many people many times about this topic, and this might fall on deaf ears talking to a Canadian and a British person about baseball, but one of the most iconic moments in baseball history, if you guys, I don't know if you know the player Bill Buckner in 1986 World Series, the Red Sox have the curse. They haven't won a World Series since they traded Babe Ruth in the 1900s, and they'll just never win. They're cursed forever to lose. Have the lead over the Mets. They're one inning away from winning a World Series, and the ball goes through Bill Buckner's legs, and they commit an error, and the Mets go on to win the 1986 World Series. It's one of the most iconic moments in baseball history. 150 years of baseball, Bill Buckner's error is probably somewhere in 5 to 10 most iconic plays of all time. 150 years of baseball. Are we not supposed to acknowledge that that's one of the most significant moments in the history of the game because he made an error?
But the error was because of a mistranslated rule set. It was like they're like, if he was told, whatever his name was, you're right, I'm too keen.
Bill Buckner.
All right. But it's like he was told, like, you know what? Like, yeah, we're going to be throwing one more. But you know what? The end, it doesn't actually matter So do whatever. And then it's for fun. And then he commits the error. And then it's like, just kidding. Actually was for real. And now you lost for it.
I
It's
mean,
like,
Ryota knew there were plus
the error.
returns. Ryota knew there were plus returns.
But it wasn't mistranslated to him. So it's...
They speak the same language. And the same judges were on the desk. And Ryota knew it was plus 3 turns. So if you're good enough to be top 4 of the World Championship, you should know the rules.
There's two sides to it, right? We can talk about, was it mistranslated? Was it this? Was it that? But like, at the end of the day, Ryota understood, and Tomiyuki had the opportunity to talk about it, right?
And Ryota still loses 99% of the time. It's still immaculate that he won that game despite not double protecting. He still should have lost that game like 99% of the time.
And it's also like comes down to like such a weird coincidence, right? Is Ryota and Paul Ruiz, later world champion, both had the Alola Marowak, but it came down to the moveset, right? And it's almost like I don't want to, say a divine intervention, but like it had to be the Brick Break.
Yes.
Like without the Brick Break, you don't beat the Alola Ninetales. So I apologize for the interruption. There is a cat on my desk.
That's okay. This is a pro cat. This is a pro cat podcast.
Yeah.
Only if you show the cat. That's the only... Except for the YouTube viewers out there.
He's like still right now. So
at some point.
Oh, okay. At some point.
He'll move and then he'll get shown.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those videos, I mean, like I said, we've had this discussion so many times. It feels like one of the ones where we can argue about it, but like how we feel like deep in our heart about it is like how we feel about it. And like that isn't really good because it's how you view the situation too. Because like I said, I don't take away from the fact it was a huge moment. It's just how it's portrayed that it's just kind of, but it's all how we look at it too. Because like, maybe he should have known the rules. There's so many different things to that too. And a lot of it too comes down to the fact that the three of us, well, more so like the two of us, I guess, because like Dozz actually
we weren't there.
Like casting, but or just spectators years later on this talking about it, so it's like it's so far in the past, like the situation, it was like such a small chance. It's just there's so many layers to it.
Well, I want to talk about other things in the past. So we're done talking about Ryota. We're getting back on to Dozz. We're taking a walk down memory lane here with you, Dozz, for this episode. Just talking about your history. So your history in Pokemon starts way before your casting career, as believe it or not, this handsome lad was actually one of Europe's best players during the Pokemon Black and White era, as we like to give him a lot of credit when things come up on stream, like Chandelure or Durant or Scrafty. Like some of these Gen 5 Pokemon there are immediately tied in my head to Sir Adam Dorricott over there. So why don't you talk about your beginnings of your Pokemon career way before casting?
So the first event I ever played was in 2010. It was the release of Heart Gold Soul Silver, and at the time I was just at school doing school stuff, and my friend, when Heart Gold Soul Silver released, my friend basically was like, "Hey, like come over to my house. We're gonna binge it all night. We're gonna play it till the sun comes up," and we did it. And then while we were doing that, we were obviously, looking up locations and such in Bulbapedia. And Bulbapedia had an article on the homepage about the VGC Championships, which were being held in Birmingham. So sort of read about it and we're like, yeah, that'd be funny if we went, right? That'd be funny. Well, we ended up going. We ended up, getting on the train. It was, first come, first serve on the limited cap that they had, and ended up going with, a couple of my friends. Did we do well? Not really. I ended up losing to the eventual winner of the tournament. So, like, I've always taken a little bit of
that's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's like, his name was, or his online handle was Kineas. And then at the event, watching the finals, I met a gentleman named Lee Prevost.
The legend.
Obviously it ends up casting with him years later, but we ended up talking and getting on really well. We talked all year, and Lee finished top 4. His friend won. Reese won. Kineas was second, I think. Dale was his name. Anyway, spent the year talking with Lee, talking with his friends, and just really getting into Pokemon. Are you serious? Come on, get down from there.
Get out of here! That's what. Whenever we're playing League and Dozz is like going at it, and his cat gets on the keyboard. He's like, "Get out of here!" And chucks the cat.
So ended up, meeting Lee that year, having a great time. 2011 rolls around. I took a year off between school and university. So the 2011 season, I'd had a year. I was just working, right? Like I was just working a job, having a good time, and end up getting really into it. So go to UK Nationals. The group's all together. There's me, Lee, my friend Chris, whose wedding I busted my shoulder apart and missed Indianapolis Regionals for.
That friend.
Yeah. So we go to 2011. We go to Birmingham. We go to the UK Nationals, as was, and should have taken it, right? Should have taken it. Play some team I just wasn't prepped for, and we go from there. When I say we go from there, it means I go home. I message Lee, I message Chris, and I say, I'm not tolerating this. Like, this is not the correct result. We're going to France, boys. We booked the cheapest bus, a full-on coach from London to Paris, and, we drive overnight, so we leave on the Friday night, and then we arrived Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. in Paris. We've barely slept. We've been on a ferry. We've been on a coach. Like it is an exhausting run. But we turn up at this event, and I just think I've got the sauce. I've figured out that Durant beats Terrakion, and that was my saving grace. It was like everyone is playing Terrakion. I get a free knockout every game because I figured this out. Because it's one speed point faster, has Iron Head, knocks it out.
Now, mind you, everybody, this is not Sword and Shield Durant because of Dynamax, where it was great into Togekiss, and Durant was a very common Pokemon. Here's your cat. Here we go. So this is not like, he used Durant and everybody knew Durant was strong. No, this is a whole different world.
Yeah, I mean, the Spanish players, so obviously, European nationals were very much like, everyone from everywhere kind of went at the time. How did you get on my desk so fast? Jesus. And I was playing it, and at the time, I mean, top 8 got an invite to Worlds, and I made a deal with my friend Chris. I said, if either of us top 8, we'll both go. It was in San Diego that year. And so top 16, I had a match. Did not deserve to win it, but let's just say like everything rolled in my favor. Crits, like crit acrobatics, like just silliness, and it rolled in my favor. I played it through top 4, got stalled out by an Amoonguss, which was weirdly enough the one thing I didn't have a good answer for when Chandler was down. And so yeah, that was kind of it. I mean, I had the agreement with Chris to go to Worlds that year and have a good time. So. We did that, and from there I kind of just kept playing for a bit. 2012 I was in university, and I had a lot of time to play the game and was able to grind. I was grinding online tournaments. Those
weren't you like testing challenges with Wolf a lot too, right? Back in the day?
Yeah.
On Nugget Bridge?
2012 fun story. Wolf actually ran up a massive phone bill because he didn't realize what international texting would cost. I don't want to like rat him out, and I don't know if he's going to see this, but yeah, he was like texting me and Marcus about team ideas, but like I had an international plan and he didn't.
Oh,
so he ended up running up like a massive phone bill with the two of us, like just texting team ideas and stuff. But no, I mean, like 2012, I was like testing with him. I was like doing like scrims and stuff with like Aaron and just really putting in that time. So 2012, I had a good run at US Nats. Ended up top 32. Was very happy about that. Considering I bombed all my European events. So I kind of stuck around. And then from there, I mean, it started to turn towards the casting. But I mean, you know, a lot of people I played in 2012 were like, you know, you did great last year. I had some ideas and some thoughts that maybe didn't hold up to the test of time. I genuinely played Virizion for most of 2012.
No, you didn't.
Was it really bad then?
It was Hidden Power Eyes, but I mean...
Okay. Understandable.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and like I say, those were the kind of the peak years of my playing. And, you know, I look back on those very fondly. I think they've been really good times. I'm very happy with what I was able to accomplish in that time. 2013 was a bit weird because I was sort of getting ready to move. Same with 2014, and then 2015, you know, emigrating kind of cuts into your practice time.
Just a little bit. But hey, top 32 World Championship, right? No context.
Yeah, top 32 World Championship 2011. Don't ask how many players there were there.
No context. Just put it on the graphic. Next time you're in stream match. Oh, we top 30. Oh, you know. Oh, well, World's top cut was 26 this year. So, all right, you got top 32. Cool.
I believe I was actually 28th, to be specific. I only know that because I've checked that very short roster sheet.
That's what you tell people at the bar. Yeah, I got top 32 of the World Championships.
It's like the Love is Blind. I'm a nationally ranked Showdown
Okay,
player.
can we talk about this? What is going on? Can we get into it? Yeah, please lead us in, Dozz, because what is going on?
The amount of people who have sent me like text messages, like even at work, I got slacked about this the other day. And it's like a Western "do you know this man" situation. Yeah. And I was like, no. It's like, he's nationally ranked on Pokemon Showdown. I was like, so am I. I played two games. I played 2 games and got a ranking. Like, no.
What is nationally ranked?
Do you see that Pokemon Showdown actually called him out?
Yeah.
I did not, no.
They tweeted and called him out. I think his ladder peak on like Ranbatch or something was like 1250. And then they're like, but technically, as soon as you play the game, you're still nationally ranked. We love all of our ladder grinders.
They're like, leave Milton alone. He is technically nationally ranked, like 100,000th in the ranking or something. But like the whole thing is crazy because I've had friends also message me and like, you're nationally ranked on an international website that doesn't mean anything because I could play someone from Germany on Showdown. So where is this national ranking you're talking about? He's banned in 5 countries, but again, it's not it's not a country based website. So how are you like? You could play Showdown in I don't know Guatemala, but you can't play it in Japan or something. Like it's just this whole scenario. And the other thing is, there's no way that's his main account, right? There has to be an alt. He can't go on Netflix and say that my 1233 Gen 7 Ranbats account makes me a nationally ranked Pokemon Showdown player. He has to have another account somewhere.
There's a producer gobbling it up. There's a producer who loved every line.
Hey, Love is Blind had like 3 couples actually make it to proposing stage. They're pulling any content they can at that point, honestly. But
I don't know what he's saying. How is he banned in 5 countries? You're the band or you're not. Like,
somebody found his apparent Twitter account and like there's nothing on there. There's like, oh, like I'm on Love is Blind, and then he started like retweeting like month-old things from like Worlds. So I'm like still unsure if like this is just like a random bait account or like what it is, but the whole situation's really weird because like everybody was looking for his Twitter after like the first batch of episodes came out, and he's like, yeah, I'm a professional Pokemon player, and everyone was like, who is this guy? And that's all they could find. So I don't know, man.
We have to be missing information here.
Did he retweet the little Timmy Glue clip?
No, it was just stat stuff.
Okay, let's ask you about that because Sierra and I bring up little Timmy, whose favorite Pokemon is Charizard and his favorite food is glue, almost every episode. So what was it like being next to Scott in that iconic moment and being, as you're the jokester, you're the funny guy, being the straight-laced man in that moment as Scott is clearly losing it, trying to hold himself together and not giggling?
So it's a weird one, right? It was like a full role reversal for me and Scott. We'd never done it that way before, I guess. And he drops the line, and it takes me a second. I giggle, and you can see I touch my stomach because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna laugh at this. And so he does that, then he hits me with this momentary line, which I think is, we've talked about it. I think it's Scott's weakness, where he hits me with the "Whoa there, buddy." But for some reason, that breaks Scott.
Not
And
good.
like Scott is looking like Jimmy Fallon
Yeah.
on SNL in the mid 2000s all of a sudden, and I'm like, okay, well, we've just got to lean into this. Like, we have decided to take this ride together. So we're taking that ride together, and it was very strange. But I think we navigated it correctly. Obviously, we were on camera for some of it too, which made it a little bit harder. But once we get into game, I mean, he manages to collect himself, and it's a very pure moment for me in Scott being a little bit unhinged because of our duo. But yeah, there was a point where I was like, I don't know where this is going. This could take turns that I'm just not prepared for. And so we managed to navigate it, but yeah, it certainly wasn't the easiest transition to game I've ever done.
Oh, God. Those giggle fits, like, on stream too, are so difficult because you're just like, get this camera off of me. I can't. Like, there was something said, and I won't say exactly what, but basically coming out of a break, something was said right as the camera like transitions to us from somebody, and all of a sudden, like, the other three of us were just like just trying not to laugh, and it was like this moment of like, all right, who's gonna say what? Like, we're all trying not to laugh. And then Skarzeg, I mean, professional as he is, just took over the point and starts going and saved us all. But like, I was so red. I'm trying not to cry, and I'm sitting there on camera the full pan. I was like, get this damn camera off of me.
I should probably own up to something I've done with the comms line a couple times. So obviously our directors can talk to us, right? We wear headsets and they can talk to us. We have a director named Brandon, and Brandon and I, obviously, we get on really well. We have a good time. And I think a couple of you guys have been caught in the crossfire, so this is like a late apology for this. Brandon will ask me about a minute before we go live if there's anything I need. And I always ask him for the same thing. I ask him if I can get a whole yeah. The problem is Brandon knows the timer, and he'll just drop it seconds before we go live. So if you've ever been victim of that, I apologize to all my other casters, because that was 100% my fault.
It's gold every time, every single time. It's just, it never doesn't get a good giggle, you know?
That's my bad. That's about 5 years in the making.
Hey, apology better late than never.
Right.
Oh man.
True. They can't get you now. They can't be like, shoot, he can't cast VGC because he's owning up to this Ahoya ploy, you know? So
Yeah.
it's a good time
All
for
right.
the apology.
I want to be a little selfish here, Sierra, if you'll indulge
Okay.
me. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So obviously, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention how most of our when it's all said and done, most of our VGC careers together, I think Dozz and I were intertwined on the casting desk, right? And how we got here and everything. So I want to be selfish and have a conversation about me and Dozz. Dozz and I,
Go for
excuse
it.
me,
Go for
proper
it.
way. I first met you the February 2017 New Jersey MSS. And
He's got dates. He's got receipts.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I remember it.
And so we were casting together back in the Liberty Garden days, and you were in Florida. Gabby also flew in as well. So you guys flew in for that event. So it was a big deal. We had like 110 players show up for the MSS. Like, we were rolling deep in the Liberty Garden days. We were having great times. But apparently Dozz had been interested in me before that date. And this was unbeknownst to me that Dozz had already taken interest in me as a potential casting friend in there. So I want to let him describe this moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I mean, 2016, 2017 was probably was a really healthy time for Grassroots, right? Like, we were having a good time. Obviously, Liberty Garden were running the Northeast. Jen and her team, I think it was Matt, was the other TO up there, were really like putting on some events. Every event had a stream. It was kind of crazy, right? Like, I think back to King's Games, which was obviously the venue at the time. And I'd seen you do stuff at King's, and I can't, Toget, I think, was the other venue.
Yep.
and I always kind of knew, I was like, all right, like, let me, we'd not really spoken, like, obviously we followed each other on socials and stuff, but no, I mean, I came up to New York in end of 2016 when League Worlds was up there. The infamous Arrow, if you remember it, that semifinals. And I did attend a PC up in, it was Kings. Yeah, it was Kings Games PC, and you weren't there, and I was kind of interested in, like, maybe Joe and I could do like a round or two together and see what happens. It didn't happen, so we kind of kept going. But I'd watched you for a long time, and I thought, out of the group that was there, you were very clearly dedicated into it, and when I got that opportunity in that February, which, by the way, was bracing cold, it was one of the coldest events I've ever attended. I was just really happy to actually get to work with you, and obviously, the team we had, it was you, me, Gabby, Brendan,
and,
I want to say
and Tommy also,
yeah.
And our first, we'd never worked together, and we did Masters finals together.
Yep. No, I remember that.
And that was when we dropped the Mimikyu Grandinium Z core. The four layers of the Earth.
What?
You can ask Pedons. Also shout out. I shout out Pedons every episode at this point. But his favorite thing that I've ever done was Dwee had this line on official broadcast for Groundinium Z, where you're getting hit by an earthquake and getting all the way, just brought all the way down. Where Dwee would always say, like, they're getting sent to the what was it? The core of the Earth or something like that, right? The center of the Earth, whatever Dwee used to say. It was like a big meme thing that everybody loved that he would say. So one time I was like, oh, Mimikyu gets hit by a Groundinium Z. And I was like, oh, Adam, there's 4 layers to the Earth, the crust, the outer core, the mantle, whatever the order is, the outer core and the inner core. And that Mimikyu got sent directly to the inner core. And Dozz just started giggling right away because he didn't know the line was coming. So I put like a twist on Dwee's like classic line. And that from that moment, since Dozz was like all in on that joke, and like we built upon it, I was like, all right, this guy's good. Like we can work together here.
So, I mean, there's one thing, I think a lot of casters have had their lines. And that's one thing I'm really proud of, like, looking back on my career, right, is the lines that I've been able to deliver and see how they get picked up, right? We talk about it on broadcast. It keeps coming up, right? There's a couple that I think are probably mine. This is probably my last chance to lay claim to them. Buy a ticket to win the raffle. I'm having that one.
Yeah, nobody else can take
always
that away
been
from
me.
you.
And you're only allowed it once per event, too.
Yes.
So, like,
that's from our producer. Like, our producer has told me that. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think I'm the only one who can get away with that. And I was thinking about this actually on my drive home from work today. I was just like mulling it over, watching some events. The one I'm like, I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, so I kind of want to pitch this to you. Paying dividends. I started this in like 2016, 2017, and I'm hearing it left and right.
That's a tough, because like I do remember you say that a lot, but a lot of people also say it, so that is a tough one.
I think we're gonna have to do the timeline on that. I think we're gonna have to.
You know what? I'll give you. We can have paying dividends. I'll pay dividends to you on that phrase. But the other one that I've noticed over the last couple of years, you're a big early doors fan. This is a new I don't know, tick that you had over the last couple seasons, and I've noticed every time we do it in League. Also, when we're casting League together, you're like, oh, he's just going early doors, or like you're big on that catchphrase now.
Yeah, it's been my latest one.
Everyone's got to have a good catchphrase. You know the worst one, though? I don't know. I thought this started actually like in an announcer in like a game way back, but whenever I hear it, I cringe. I want to perish. The revolving door of Pokemon.
Oh, okay, Sierra. Do you know the origin of revolving door of Pokemon?
I just know it's old.
So I believe it's in Stadium.
Is it okay?
And then way back when, Nick McCord, who used to be our host, by the way, Nick McCord, absolute saint, has taught me a lot. Used to attend Roanoke Regionals just for fun because he could, because he lived in Roanoke. When he was researching, I believe that was one of the lines he picked up on, and he used to use that like on stage. But no, Nick is a saint. He used to attend Roanoke just to attend Roanoke and talk, but Yeah, that was one that got
It's a very
ingrained.
old one. Yeah. But
you know,
I
I will
cringe
say
also. I agree.
it's a little cringe. But I mean, just remember, 2012 was casted by GameStop, so or GameSpot.
GameSpot,
back in the
GameSpot.
day,
My apologies.
back in the day, the saying was fine. Hearing it nowadays, after the years and years and years that it's been overused, it's just like, no, can't we find another way? Like, why can't we say, like, oh, they're busting through the saloon doors, or like anything else that's just not the exact phrase revolving door of Pokemon? Like,
Well,
I
mean, I think there's arguably rules on it, right? Like, you need to see at least 3 Pokemon switch.
Yeah.
and
And
rules on it.
it was like the Incineroar U-turns and then the Incineroar parting shots, and like it the last couple of years it really built up in a commonplace thing to see multiple in-turn switches compared to just like pre-turn switches. The last couple formats really made it a little less tolerable to say revolving door Pokemon because it just happened so often. That I do try, like we all have caster ticks and we all have certain words that we kind of focus on and say too often. And I do try to make a conscious effort to not say revolving door of Pokemon, because I know people have the same reaction Sierra did.
All right, well, that's my, like, caster, like, no. So you're not allowed to steal that one. Which one is your, like, you say it, you hear someone say it, and you're just like, oh, God, no.
I know exactly what, but I want Joe to go first.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, because I know what Dozz is, so I'm not saying, well, I know, because this is not going to be Dozz's answer. I don't think we do it on the official level anymore, because like we've built up the skill and slapped ourselves enough time not to say it. But a lot of times casters, this is just general advice, they say we see, and it's like, and we'll see the Landorus switch in and intimidate, and we see the stomping tantrum go into Iron Hands, and we see the one hit KO. Like, there's a lot of we going on, and I feel like as a caster, it's not your job. Like, you are not in the moment. It's not your Pokemon that are doing the things. You are telling the audience the story. And this used to be a huge thing in Grassroots days and with casters. And they would constantly, I also did it when I first started too. You have to train yourself out of that habit, is saying, and we see. That's probably my number one pet peeve.
Mine is the one that Joe knows very well. And it's a habit. And I've been guilty of it. Like, don't get me wrong. I've been guilty of it. Like, I'm having a bad day. I just kind of, fall back. Diana Rossing.
So there's going to be more context.
I feel like I've had this explained to me by one of you two actually previously on, but I can't remember.
In Players Cup 4, I think we did Diana Ross you at one point. I want to say that this conversation did happen.
Are you familiar with the Diana Ross song, I'm Coming Out?
Oh,
because people will say, like, earthquake coming out from the Landorus. The Landorus is coming out, like, and it's always coming out. And it was actually Dewey who told me off about this, Dewey Ha, many years ago. He's like, why do you keep saying that? I was like, well, it's coming out, right? It's coming out from the Landorus. And so,
coming out from the book, Dewey.
Yeah, everyone knows. But yeah, we ended up, I remember way back when, like, Grassroots days was in my old apartment. I remember, like, we do some, we do games with each other and
our
test and
practice casting.
Discord, we do those, and then people be like, "Oh, how was it?" And I just link the video of Diana Ross's "I'm Coming Out," and it was so stupid. It was something we all wanted to avoid.
A brutal blow to your ego when Dozz dropped the Diana Ross, because you don't think about it when you're trying to cast. You're trying to work on our skill. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to make ourselves stronger as casters, and then you get hit with that blow. I was subconsciously Diana Rossing the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people, right, at the time supporting us. Back early days when we were Grassroots, we were working hard. I mean, Jen and Dwee and Gabby as well, like, just really trying to make all of us better. And I think that has shown over the years, right? Is like there's a lot of us who, really busted chops to be where we are now, and I'm glad that it paid off for a lot of people.
Just laughing at the subconscious, like, not knowing what you're saying, like those moments when you're casting, because it is, like, for anyone who hasn't actually, like, casted, I don't think you realize, like, how huge crutch words are, or, like, we're we're trying to think of the analysis of a moment while we're just talking through something and don't realize what we're saying. So like there'll be like Twitch comments or YouTube comments, or like, you know, if you really go for one too many times, someone will at you on Twitter and hit you with it. But like this caster keeps saying this caster keeps saying this. If I took a shot every time this caster said this, and it's like, we don't know at the moment. We only know when we go back to like listen and try and get better from it. But like, oh, it is so hard after you feel like you've crushed a cast and you go back and they're just like, how many times can they say like, well, obviously, or like, I forget. Like, it's so hard to know if you're crushed words before. It hurts, man.
Yeah, because if we knew about it, we would work on it, which we have done. Like, we've all worked on Diana Rossing, and we've all worked on We See, and we've all worked on Revolving Door Pokemon. Like, we've all built the skills to use stronger language than that. But it is a skill that you have to learn, and you know, to those old like Discord group chat like practice days. Like, you gotta think, Dozz, it's kind of paid off if you think about what critical hit, like nobody, you know, I think only TJ is really the only person that goes around and tells everybody what critical hit did, you know, so shout out to our boy TJ. But like, think about it. Adam Dorricott, Gabby Snyder, Joe Brown, Jake Muller, Rosemary Kelly's first Pokemon regional was Collinsville with critical hit, right? We got critical hit's got a pretty strong pipeline to the official desk.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was a good time. I'd do it all again if I could. Honestly, I would literally do it every single time. I'd do the same thing, and sometimes like I was pretty hard to work with, right? Like I'm trying to do TCG, which was a strange new challenge, but you know, I do it every time. Very proud of what we did, and you know, being able to work with a lot of you guys and see people like Jake, right? Like, you know, get up on the official stream with us has been incredible. So yeah.
I'd redo the Theanals with you every time, Dozz.
As long as Jamermi's in the Theanals.
that's conversation for another day. We don't want to go too into the weeds. We'll tell Sierra afterwards. About that.
Right.
But I'll just say, like, we started 2017. You and I become friends. We're working together. We're hanging out. You know. And then the end of 2017, I worked my first regional. Technically, that earlier in the spring, I was brought down for Roanoke, but I just sat down. I sat next to TJ the whole time.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
Things I never got to cast, and I was like, whatever. So my first regional with you guys was the end of that year with Hartford regionals, and then the next week we did Daytona. But so we were pretty solid friends at that point. But I think what really forged our friendship for life, Dozz, was the end of 2017 with our Grizz in Memphis regionals.
Yeah,
that is probably the most. That is the full. Like, we can talk about some things. We can't talk about everything that happened that weekend. But so Sierra, what had happened was that was one of the few official regional streams for Pokemon, and Dozz and Gabby were down there for VGC. That was the one that I've told you before. That was probably my best team that I built around the Protect the Finny comp with my Choice Specs Tapu Fini and stuff. So I was friendly with Dozz and Gabby and stuff. But then Dozz and I, we went to 2 Memphis Grizzly games that weekend because we're in Memphis, do what the people of Memphis do and go support. And they're like, yo, respect the grind and our Grizz and blah, blah. So Dozz and I just became Grizzlies fans for the weekend. And that's just like, oh, you know, our Grizz had a tough game last night. We kept this bit going on for years. Like when they got John Morant, and it was, oh, our Grizz are doing well, blah, blah, blah. But like that weekend, I truly feel, Dozz, is like that cemented our friendship. And then we took that on into 2018 with Dallas and Roanoke and, you know, all the other places, and, you know, up and onwards to here we are now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a great weekend. You know, the multiple Grizzlies games was definitely a choice that we made. Considering I live in Orlando and I get to go watch the Orlando Magic, the quality doesn't change much for me. Maybe one day I'll get to go see like a good NBA game, but it's sure not going to be at home. Yeah, no, Joe and I like hung out all weekend. Obviously, I believe that was the first time you introduced yourself to our producer at the time as well.
Yes.
You know, and he was intrigued.
I was very awkward. I was like, hi,
yep.
I'm Joe Brown. I was like, hi, I'm Joe Brown. Nice to meet you. And I guess he'd seen the Grassroots story. He was like, hey, Joe. And then I just was so nervous that I didn't follow anything else up. So that was the whole conversation was, hi, I'm Joe Brown.
Good
And he's like,
job.
hi. And then I was like, I get me on a plane right now. I just embarrassed myself. I could have like tried to schmooze and like give him a business card or something, but all I said was hi. Like I was embarrassed. It was like Shohei before Shohei, Sierra.
Oh dang. That's bad.
The only other thing I remember about that regional was some of the worst dining I've ever experienced.
Oh, I remember a lot of other things about that regional that are not broadcast friendly. So
no, I just remember trying to eat from concessions and it was not an option, and ordering a McDonald's. So yeah, as you can,
that was also the Butt Greninja that weekend too, right?
It was, yeah, that was Ask Greninja
weekend. Memphis was legendary.
That was that weekend?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I remember the judge who caught him and everything, but yeah, he was
yeah, VG was going crazy on our side of the room when we found that news out, because we don't follow TCG. Like, what did Greninja do?
He was, I'll put it this way, he was definitely concealing a card. There is somebody, and I don't know if somebody, with actual power can correct me on this, but there is somebody in that Seattle office who has gone, concealed cards. Like, it's such a naughty name considering it's Greninja.
Yeah, that's
like how our memory lane turned into a story of your guys' bromance, and then it goes into the history of Greninja.
Well, one of the worst cheating scandals of all time. But,
you know.
It was a good time, for sure. My only other selfish question, we can go back to the regular podcast after this, Sierra. My only other selfish question for Dozz is, besides that top 4 match, you can either say your favorite match you've ever cast in general, or if I happen to be a part of that favorite match, what is your favorite match that you and I together have cast in our history?
He took way too long to think. I'm sorry, that's bad news for you, bud.
I've got a couple. No, Dozz and I had some bangers over the years.
The problem is we've had like a bunch of bangers.
Had a lot of bangers.
I think our London World's Top Cut match.
Well, last round of Swiss. You're talking about Naoto and Shohei?
Naoto, that's it, yeah. It's like Top Cut winning in.
Yeah.
And despicably good. Just things that shouldn't have happened in that game, and I think you and I it's probably the most energized like we've ever been. I pulled the standing up trick, obviously, to let it rip, but I think that was that's definitely
according to TikTok, that's the greatest VGC match of all time. And according to TikTok, I mean my own TikTok when I made it, when I posted the 5-part series on Shohei.
Sources, trust me, bro.
Naoto Mizubuchi and Shohei Kimura for future world champion. So the current world champion against the future world champion in the winning in. Sierra was there. She understands how incredible that series was. And I honestly, I do think that was the most on top of our game we ever were in a series. Like, there's that option, and the other one that Sierra might not appreciate. It's Kyogre wins the raffle, and that's Salt Lake City top 4. As you remember,
that's a good one.
So Dozz has an ability to cast iconic matches that he's not supposed to be a part of. Because Dozz and I weren't even supposed to be together in that top 4 match, but the schedule had changed around in Salt Lake, and we literally had one match together in Salt Lake, and it was that in top 4. And that is when Joe Garte, Aaron Trailer had the craziest best of 3 ever. Aaron Dynamaxes his Whimsicott, like all these crazy things, and it all comes down to that. I think Joe's done the math a million times, like 2.27% chance of missing the player off into Origin Pulse hitting, and Dozz gets the line out. He says, you got to buy a ticket to win the raffle. And because Aaron doesn't forfeit, he goes on to win that game. And like, that's still the craziest crowd reaction I've ever heard in a match.
Well, I mean, Salt Lake as well we'd just come back from the online break, right? Like, let's not hide it. Like, we were remote for years because of COVID, and we go back, we go to Salt Lake, and we just get that kind of tournament, which was, I mean, that top 8 was really, really solid, and I think for a lot of us, particularly myself, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but like for me, like I hadn't been in an event hall for 2 years. I'd been casting games from my back bedroom at my old house, and being able to get there and be just delivered those games was absolutely huge. And I think the crowd really fed into it too. We're obviously backstage, we're tucked away, but you can still feel the crowd. It's different to like an NAIC or a Worlds where we're in the room, but no, that was really big, and being able to deliver, the iconic "you got to buy a ticket to win the raffle" line was just big. I enjoyed it.
Was that the first time that you dropped the line?
No, he'd used it many times.
It was just the most iconic.
It was the first time that, like, in unison with the match, he said it. Usually he says it in like post breakdown of a set, and like, oh, he had to go for the rock slides, you gotta buy a ticket to win the raffle. Like, I get it. It was the first time that Dozz essentially called his shot as it happened, and then he missed, and then Aaron won. Like we said, like divine intervention. Like, it kind of felt like, I told you that with my my Toxicroak Justin Burns moment in Philly. Like, that was essentially Dozz's Toxicroak moment.
Yeah, it was just like, it's been something that I've been delicate about using, and I'm glad I could deliver it. And like I say, first event back too after 2 years at home, which was a challenge.
And it was our only event or only match together that weekend. Like, what are the odds that we got one match together and it happened to be like the craziest match of the weekend?
Yeah.
And
especially I'm done being selfish, Sierra. Go ahead.
Like I said, we got a couple of other things to talk about too. There's a regional coming up. There's all this other stuff. Don't y'all chat every day? Isn't this all?
A little bit, basically.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, we don't talk about Memphis regionals every day. You know what I mean?
I'm kidding. No, it's cool to hear all of like this history and this story stuff too, because I was super like just outsider looking in because I only really played then, not even the VGC. So it's cool hearing the older matches and like calls and all of like your guys' like casting careers before that. But we'll bring it to current today. We'll bring it to Peoria coming up this weekend. We do have a regional coming up. This is going to be our first Regulation E tournament. They are our first official one. And we do have the official announcement as well to what Regulation E is going to be. To absolutely nobody's surprise, it is going to be exactly what we thought. The only question mark was whether the Sinnoh starters were allowed or not, and they are. So, Empoleon fans, rejoice, I guess.
Dozz is a big Empoleon guy.
I like the Sinnoh starters. I think Empoleon's kind of sick. Infernape, absolutely peak for me. I think a lot of people need to respect that and maybe explore it more. And Torterra definitely is a Sinnoh starter. I can confirm that.
of all the things you could say, he definitely exists. That is true.
Yeah, trust me, Torterra is a Pokemon.
Great analysis. But
and what does it do? What is it gonna do?
It gets Shell Smash now in the DLC. It could terrestrialize out of that god awful typing.
It could.
If terrestrializing out of god awful typings was the end all be all for everything, Slytherin would be better than it is. But unfortunately,
it's great. That's a great point.
Unfortunately, it is what it is. But with Peoria then coming up, I mean, people have been practicing what they thought what Regulation E was going to be, but now they'll actually be able to sit down and get to it. And we're going back to Peoria. I know this was a fan favorite spot from last year, guys. I didn't get to go last year. Well, actually, Peoria was TCG only last year, right?
So I went to Peoria. I was the Analyst Lounge host in Peoria, which, by the way, at the time we didn't have a lounge.
Yeah, you were just standing up on a wall, right?
Yeah, against the wall.
That.
It's very strange. It was like my second TCG event, second or third, I think. But Peoria is a strange place. It's not, probably the premium destination in Illinois, but it's got some charm. There's a couple of great establishments that are open late that you could enjoy. Highly recommend Hoops for those of you who are going there. It's a pizzeria and a bar, and also a pseudo casino. There was a bar that was open till 4, which a guy was getting thrown out clutching his sandwich. because the sandwich was that good. No, the sandwich was that good. I had
it? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I had it. It's a strange town, but at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm glad it's very accessible driving. And I'm excited to go back. I think, you know, it's definitely not the worst place I've been. I've been to a lot of places thanks to this career, and you know, I think it'll be a good event. And also, you know, I just see that, you know, just being able to go to Peoria with 2 events, I hope we get a bigger haul, but we'll see how that one goes. It's a strange choice, but I respect it. I'm fine with Peoria going forward.
I was gonna go to Peoria to compete, and for some reason, 2022, I was just sick on and off. I missed quite a few events. Yeah. If it wasn't COVID, it was bronchitis. So I couldn't get my second booster because I had bronchitis, and there was still quarantine stuff in Canada, so I wasn't allowed to leave, and I couldn't get tested, so I thought it was COVID. Recovered from bronchitis, caught COVID. Even after I just had my booster, I had to skip another bit. Like, it was, I don't know, I had COVID like twice, bronchitis 2 or 3 times. It was stupid. And Peoria was another COVID weekend for me, so that was super fun and awesome. I was about to drive down there and compete, but it is what it is. But at least I'll be able to go experience the wonders of Peoria this time around. The driving thing, it's not the worst drive. It's still a road trip, but my car's not doing great. So I get to do the really fun instead, fly into Chicago, sit around forever, and then fly down, you know, the classic.
Yeah, I'll see you there. I'll see you in O'Hare, because I also have like a really long layover, so we might just have to kill time as we wait for the up and down 20-minute flight.
I also don't understand how we're not on the same flight, because we leave at like the same time.
Yes.
We land at like the same, I think we land like 5 minutes apart. We're on the same airlines.
Yep.
I genuinely do not understand how that's possible, but
I mean, last time I was in Chicago, I got stuck there with like the chaotic flood on our way to Fort Wayne, so I'm hoping I actually get to leave Chicago this time.
Fort Wayne was great. If you guys had flown into Indianapolis, you wouldn't have had that problem. But
hey, I drove. I was picking up casters left, right, center.
I know. I remember seeing your messages, just like, who needs a ride? What city are you in?
Yeah.
Like,
Sierra was definitely MVP that weekend.
Yeah, except for the one point where we had already passed Detroit, so Caleb had to Uber at 3:30 a.m. through a tornado warning, an hour to go to our hotel so we could finish. I don't know. It was crazy stuff. That's not the story here. But looking at Peoria, of course, regional coming up. We always like to do our OHKO predictions, and Dozz, you are also going to be scored heavily on these, being the special guest, because Jake, when he was on the podcast, me and him tied for, I think, 4 out of 5 of them right?
4 out of 5, yeah. So
yeah, and then Joe Brown just absolutely just but you know, that's
you still owe me a plushie from Worlds, okay? So
okay, yes, but we did try to buy that plushie at Pittsburgh, and there just wasn't, because we agreed that it wasn't going to be a sitting cutie, that it was going to be, you know, instead of the $15 plushie, we're going for the $20 plushie or like up, and there was no like good plushies actually really at Pittsburgh.
I mean,
so.
I'm honestly in Peoria this weekend here, like if there's a good sitting plushie, I'm willing to take it, because we kind of got screwed over in Pittsburgh. There was really nothing. There was like, the only thing that was cool was like a $50 weird ear, but besides that, like that's way too much. That's way too expensive. So if we go whole
win
another
a couple
event
more predictions first,
where it's only it's only sitting cuties that are good, I'll take that as my reward.
All right. Well, we'll have to go plushie hunting, especially too since we get in at a decent hour. So because we also like, there was also all of the issues trying to get into Pittsburgh. So realistically, we could have had like the cream of the crop plushie selection on the Friday.
Yeah.
And then both of us had our flights canceled. So, you know, maybe fingers crossed, knock on wood. Hopefully Peoria is going to be better in that regards. But getting into our predictions, a drum roll. Easy one, considering the DLC coming out. Highest day 1 usage Ogre Pond form, water or grass?
Well, let Dozz start, and I'll say, because everybody's anticipating fire to be the number 1, so we don't want all of us to just say fire, and then all of us get the point or whatever. So everyone's kind of in unison, fire's the best and rock is the worst. So I think that's where the water and grass conversation comes in.
Yeah.
Water or grass?
Those are the two more supportive versions, right? Because the water one you can do follow me into the water absorb, and the grass one you can do follow me rocky helmet because you can actually hold a held item on it. So
my gut says grass, right? Just being able to pull attacks, rocky helmet people, not having to hold the mask. Like not having to hold the mask is huge for me, right? So yeah, I'd say grass just has the edge on that. Also just water grass is a weird typing. Has been since Ludicolo and suffered that fate a couple times. So yeah, I'll go grass.
Okay.
All right, what order are we doing this in? Am I next or?
I think we'll figure it out. We'll go as we go. You can go next on this one.
I'll go next. I mean, simply put, for the same reason as Dozz said, grass, because of the fact that you can have an additional item. I think that's when you're looking at the differences between the water and grass one, I feel like they're decently comparable at the moment. I'd be interested to see where that is in a few weeks. But at the moment, they're pretty comparable. So if one can have an item and one can't have an item, I think the only thing that might be about the grass Ogerpon usage would be the fact that it kind of competes more with Rillaboom in that sense. But I still think just overall, people would be more willing to give up Rillaboom and run the grass Ogerpon if they're considering an Ogerpon other than fire than just going for water.
I think I think it's a respectable decision to go with the grass, but you'll understand why I'm going with water on this one, because it's of another question that we have. I'm essentially parlaying two predictions into one, right? So using facts and logic, which is what I like to do, Ogerpon Wellspring has a higher Picolytics usage than the base grass form Ogerpon. So I think if people are testing the Ogerpons online and the water one is more commonly used, I'm trying to win here. I'm trying to get that day one usage spot, and I'm going to go with the water version, the Wellspring, and you'll understand on a future question why.
It's like double too. That's actually, I'm quite surprised by that one. I literally pulled that.
Because I would look, if I was playing, I'd probably use the grass one over or I'd build around the grass one before I'd build around the water one. But because obviously it's like, Ogerpon's water and Urshifu is water, so it's like you might as well just use Urshifu. It crits every time, where Ivy Cudgel only crits a lot. It doesn't crit all the time. It only crits
not every time. Oh darn.
Yeah.
Basculegion's also water, so what's going on here?
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Is this the question you're trying to parlay to? The highest day one usage grass type Pokemon?
Yes. So I'll go first on this one, because back in the day, everyone's like, oh, it's just a Mungus. It's just a Mungus. Like, no, there's competition now. There's a Mungus, there's Rillaboom, there's Ogerpon, there's, it could have been cheeky and been like Terra Grass Heatran or something like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying that there is more grass conversations now, and I feel like the Ogerpon or the base grass Ogerpon is going to be left to the wayside because so many other people are going to use Rillaboom as their grass type this weekend that they might not want to double up on mono grasses, and they'll go for the Hearthflame form to have a grass type that turns into fire. Still have access. You can put Rillaboom and Ogerpon on the same team and have the Grassy Glide benefits out of it, right? So my guess is going to be Rillaboom is going to be highest day one grass type usage.
See, I don't want to just sit here and copy answers and stuff. And Rillaboom was going to be the one that I was going to pick. I'm going to
you could say Bramblegast if you want to not get points.
The problem is I kind of want to get points.
Okay.
You know what? I'll go not quite out of left field, because I actually think it's a really strong Pokemon. I'll pick up Sinistcha for this one, because one of the new Pokemon that's being added in the DLC. And when we're looking at day one usage, I feel like maybe the grass Ogerpon is going to split Rillaboom a little bit, whereas day one shiny new toy, the fact that there is the Sinistcha and just how strong it can be, matcha gotcha. It has Rage Powder, and then people love their Trick Room. So if we're looking at a day two, I don't think I'd pick this Pokemon, but I do think that there is going to be enough people that are trying to cook on that day one that that we could actually maybe see this go a little bit higher than Rillaboom. I still kind of think Rillaboom might be the highest, but I don't want to repeat answers, so I'm going to take this one.
Okay. Rillaboom makes sense, right? Rillaboom definitely adds up. It's been good for a few years. But the fact that the new toy is Ogerpon and all of the forms are grass. And also
because the fire one, technically,
still grass.
Oh, I forgot. Oh no, I made the wrong choice.
Wow.
But
we got baited.
I just think there's so many people who want to play the new toy and deal with it that way that like Ogerpons across Teal, Wellspring, and was it Hearthflame Mask? Yep. It's just gonna make up the numbers. Yes, you can pair it with the Rillaboom and obviously Grassy Glide for days. The fact that Hearthflame Mask exists too also really hurts the Moongus because it's like you've now got another grass type to hurt you, another grass type to deal with your Spore. That's why I think a Moongus has to make. I say this every time.
Are you saying Ogerpon as a whole, or are you calling Hearthflame? Because if we're going to stack up 4 Ogerpon forms,
there's no way it's as a whole because, like, even on preview, there's
I'll take Hearthflame. It's the obvious and one. Beats the Moongus.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair pick. So I'm just throwing it out there that I think all of our chances all of our picks have a chance because if you look on Pikalytics, Ogerpon Hearthflame is at 22%, Rillaboom is at 21.97, which is essentially 22%, and Sinistcha is at 17%. And Sinistcha was also a top 10 Pokemon at the Beast Coast event this past weekend as well. So I think all 3 of us realistically have a chance on that prediction.
I don't know. I'm just looking over I'm looking over the Beast Coast event, and I'm just looking at the amount of Hearthflame, Mask, Ogerpons in this top 8. I kind of think we got played on this one, Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, I don't care about top 8. I'm talking about day 1, baby. We got all the low table people that might be trying out Sinistcha as the new toy, right? That might work.
Okay, you're right. We'll take that, but we'll keep our predictions going along the Ogerpon train. Next question, how many of any type in top 8? I say 6.
6 is a good amount. 6 is a good amount of Ogerpons. Dozz, what are you thinking?
I was going to go 6, but I'm not going to go the same.
Are you gonna prices right it? Oh, I knew you would prices right it.
I just think that there's so many teams out there that people have more reps on from Regulation D that the Ogerpon players could get caught. But I still think there's a lot of good players who will pivot to the Ogerpon. I just think 5's like kind of right. Just, a lot of people who want to run back something from D. So yeah, I'll go 5.
Well, I'll do the opposite of the Price is Right. Instead of betting $1 under, I'll do $1 over for no reson, and I'll say 7 Ogerpon and cut.
Woo!
Then that one person's going to be like, wow, I'm the only one without.
It'd be great narrative. Great narrative of the weekend.
True.
It is a strong enough Pokemon that, like, realistically, anywhere from, like, 4 to 8 range, I wouldn't necessarily be the most surprised about. Like, it actually is quite a strong Pokemon, and the fact, too, that, like, we're talking about any type of forms, I think it'd be fine. Our next question, and after Pittsburgh, we put a little bit of a clause on this. I forget if it was on air or off air, but we're not allowed to pick the same person for like the next 3 events for this. So the Dozz doesn't affect you, but for anyone who's like looking at mine and Joe Brown's predictions, like, that's why. So just straight up, who's gonna win the entire thing?
I'll let Dozz think about it here, because obviously I don't know what the player roster is and things, but I think I can take a shot here because Sierra currently cannot choose Joseph Ugarte because she just chosen to win Pittsburgh, and now Ugarte's on a cooldown. So I think this is my time to strike, and I'm saying Joe UX9's got Peoria in the bag. How's that feel, Sarah? How do you feel?
Okay, well then I am going to counter that This is a direct counter to your prediction, but and I feel so bad doing this. I am so sorry, Ugarte. I'm so sorry. James Evans beats Joe when we were looking at who was going to get the top 8 in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, James Evans, after the victory, fell at 9th, but he still beat Joe 2-0. And then at East Coast in top 4, he also beat him 2-0. So we're looking at players that are going to make a run and who has historically been beating him more as of recently.
They better not play each other. I'm going to be so upset.
I would be too. I'll have to say James Evans to win. I'm sorry, Joe.
Wow.
I'm not allowed to pick him. He's on
That's
cooldown.
true.
I have to pick someone else.
Hey, you know what? Senor Evans is going to be okay with that pick. He'll be happy.
Okay. I'm
Are you
diving
ready?
in. Yeah, I'm ready. I think it's time. I think it's been a little bit too long. I think he's due one, based on last season. What is that tail? I'm going off the Beast Coast too, which I know, Joe and James played. And I'm not taking number 1. It's time for the Tang Gang to rise again.
That's who I was going to say before Joe Brown started getting all... I'm taking personal shots here.
Yeah, Justin Tang coming in, like, top 4. It's time, and, like, I think he's one of those players that, like, has done really, really well historically with just, like, a brand new, like, change. So, yeah, I'm getting back on board the Tang Gang train. I know one of the graphics operators, actually, the VG guys, big on the Tang Gang.
Everyone
He is big on the Tang
loves
Gang.
Tang Gang. It's so funny.
He's so into it. It's unreal.
If
And
Tang
I just
Gang
think,
made like shirts, I guarantee you, people backstage they pick up a couple of shirts.
Oh, they love him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going Justin Tang. I think it's about time for the 3rd win. If he disappoints, then he's taking too long.
I know, like, who's gonna win. The event is kind of a shot in the dark. I actually do think if you're putting money on anyone, that Tang is actually a really smart choice because of the fact that he won an event with the Dragapult when everyone kind of thought Dragapult wasn't doing anything. Like, he kind of it thrives in a newer format, it kind of seems. So I feel like, and like with these newer picks, so I feel like having this new dex, having these Ogrepons, having these new Pokemon, I feel like would actually work out pretty well for him. And just the confidence after getting like a high placement at the East Coast event, because a couple events before were kind of a little bit rough, I think is actually going to be like really good for him. Is like, yeah, he is a good player, kind of like keep that confidence and momentum going forward.
Can I call? I'm not saying it's a win, but I'm definitely saying it's like a top cut. I think it's Ofamezi ML. Yeah. Another like great performance at Beast Coast, and it's like Ofamezi has been knocking at the door for so long.
Yeah.
That like you just think maybe the regulation change is like the spark, the fire that's needed. Like just watching these aggressive teams too, like completely win or lose teams. I really love watching Ofamezi play, and we don't get him on stream enough as we probably should, but that's a player that I'm like actually really interested in.
My only thing about Ofamezi, because I agree with all of that, but he's running back the Brambleghast, so he at Beast Coast anyway. So whatever he brings to Peoria, I don't know, but
comfort could work.
But it's also even already at Pittsburgh. I mean, you had Trailer who was like, "Yeah, I'm good against this team," and there's a couple of people who were caught off guard by Brambleghast. But I kind of think going on forward, for the most part, that people should maybe have that matchup figured out. So I don't know. If people disrespected Brambleghast, then it's all out there. But it'll depend if people are actually
I was just looking it up. Brambleghast gets Poltergeist now, where before you had to run Shadow Claw and use your Terra Ghost on a lower base power move. Like Poltergeist, the 90% of the time that it connects, pretty strong.
50% of the time.
Thank you. So I don't know if you guys saw, I posted it where Moxie Boosted made a new video on like Pokemon that are usually bad that had moments of where they were good, and one of it was Pedon's Articuno this year. He posted about it was like Snowcloak and Bright Powder and all the interactions and stuff. He's like, you take these 100% accurate moves and turn them to 80%, and as we all know, if it's not 100%, it's basically 50%. And I was like, let's go, Moxie! Oh, I felt so
he's
good.
He's just stealing content from you, Joe.
No, he could have it. I want it to grow. I want it to prosper. I want everyone to understand the math of VGC, you know?
Oh,
yeah, it either hits or it doesn't.
Yeah, Dozz was there. Dozz was the first victim of my.
That was another time I just broke on stream. Was Joe with his incredible mathematics?
That's not how mathematics works.
Yeah,
it's like the girl dinner, boy dinner, and now we have like Pokemon math. It's 100 is 50. Simply put. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, our last question. And I think, Dozz, you would appreciate this one. Higher day 2 usage, Milotic or Empoleon? Considering it just got the competitive
water types. So anti-intimidate water types.
Empoleon. If you're not playing Empoleon, you're a fool.
That's a hot take.
Just visually, it's a way cooler Pokemon, right? Like, he's an Emperor Penguin.
I know that me and Joe Brown went on hater arcs last week. I feel like that comment that like Empoleon's way cooler than Milotic is gonna have a couple people upset.
Oh, I'm sorry, an Emperor Penguin with a trident on his head.
Yeah, it's quite the triple threat, Sierra.
Yeah. I don't need to think about this.
With that being said, I think Dozz is out of his mind, and I think it's going to be Melodic. It's specifically because this question is about day 2 usage, not day 1 where you have the whole field and little Timmy who likes Empoleon is going to use it. No, day 2, the players that have performed well at the event, and I'm saying Melodic is a more consistent Pokemon that does that specific anti-stat drop role better, where Empoleon needs to have a higher damage output where using it, so if it doesn't get the competitive boost, it's not as great at that role as Melodic without the competitive boost. So I think in day 2, I don't know if either of them will make it onto the top 12 graphic. I think that would be very interesting if the meta develops like that, but in day 2 I think it's Melodic for me.
Nope, Empoleon. It's cooler. Sorry.
So, like, going into this, it's like, sure, maybe Milotic is, like, more consistent, but we're going into shiny new toy syndrome, right? So when we're looking at that, more people are going to be running Empoleon, which then means, theoretically, it should have the higher day 2 usage in all of this. So...
Okay.
I feel like that might just be like the safer bet here, you know?
And that is your unbiased perspective.
Absolutely not biased whatsoever.
The giant, was that the giant one that you couldn't get on a plane, or was that a different one?
Yeah, didn't someone have to drive it back to Canada for you? Yeah.
There was a desperate Twitter plea of who can drive this back to Canada, because Delta tried to tell me this was fine as my carry-on item, and I could fit it in the overhead bin. And I sent them the dimensions, and they stood by that.
I remember the chaos backstage, because I went to sit in the subject matter expert seat, and there's just a Piplup there, and I was like, whose is this? And somebody was like, who do you think? I was like,
yeah.
Guess it's Sierra's.
And then Katie posted a picture, and he had a hat and everything with his hands out, he's like, he's working,
Yeah, he was working very hard. He's got a lot of screen time too. When he was being driven back to Canada, there was the photo ops documenting his journey. The air conditioning's on. He's listening to his favorite music. Surprised they didn't get in trouble at the border for this, because But hey.
What, you think there were drugs in the stuffing? Why would you get in trouble for the Piplup?
I just don't know the amount of people that are just driving a giant penguin across the border.
It's not a real penguin.
He's me.
Okay.
Just so you know, Sierra, in a previous life, I have escorted a shark over the border to Canada. A live, actual shark. So you're...
And then
Do
I guess
I need to
Canada's
explain?
cool with it.
I just have so many questions.
I used to work for a company that
Believe it or not.
owns an aquarium. Believe it or not, yeah, that owns an aquarium in Canada, and I was on the truck with a live shark. So
What? Is it a big shark?
there's a nurse shark. It was fun.
A little shark?
Doesn't matter. Customs don't go. Oh, how big's that shark? And you go, just open the back and have a look.
Just take a swim.
It was a shark and point of sale kiosks.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
Poor shark, but yeah. So
Hey.
yeah, my pick is Empoleon.
Understandable.
Simply put. Yep. Simply put here. But
Tough to be wrong, Joe.
yeah.
Hey, we'll
sorry
find
about
out.
that.
We'll find out this Sunday, okay?
I gotta say, bad news for whether you're an Empoleon or a Milotic fan, because we got to see Regulation E take place at the Beast Coast event, and if either of them made an appearance, it wasn't a great one, let's say that, as we do have the results of the event, and both of them are starkly missing from any top cut performance. Oh, okay, Milotic in 12th
There's a Milotic
place.
in 12.
Yeah.
Milotic in 12.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, how are you feeling about these results coming in? This is our first official quote unquote official look at Reg E.
It might as well be if it's right with how many people flew in. Like, these are some of the best players in the country went to this event.
I mean, I think the one thing I'll give this event is there's definitely wiggle room for experimentation, right? And I always want to see that, right? First event in a format, everyone's going to try and play something new, something sexy, something cool. And I think a lot of players did. Obviously we've got Ogerpons all over the place. So it's not that I want to throw the results out, but I just think we have to take them with the biggest pinch of salt, because we're still figuring it out. And I do think that sometimes, getting in the room and playing other top players is how you figure out where it is. So, obviously we got Grant, James, Justin, Joseph, all up in the top 4. I think there's a lot to be taken from it, but I do think there's going to be some people making the hardest of pivots before this weekend in Peoria, just like, oh no, this doesn't work, and just panicking. So yeah, I think there's a grain of salt to be taken, but I'm excited to see. Like, I'm glad we had an event before the first regional with this format.
I mean, there's definitely things that are going to change, but like there's some events, so like we'll see an online tour happen before a regional, and we'll like kind of discuss those results. The thing I'll say about Beast Coast is not only being in person, they actually had a really decently sized prize pool. So players were taking this pretty seriously with their prep going into it. So there are results that I would dismiss a little less. Obviously, we're not going to like look at a player and be like, all right, Justin Tang, these are the 6 that he brought. Yeah, we have to see this exact same 6 going into Peoria. But I will say, like, just considering the teams and the trends that we see in general, and the fact that now Peoria is like just right around the corner, that even if a player pivots, that like kind of the results and a couple of the trends that we're seeing, like how strong Ogerpon is and how many are out there, do hold like some significance of weight there. There's a decent chunk of Lando. I'm surprised on the winning team, like the winning team, Ogerpon, Roaring Moon, Golden Go, like it's a little spicy.
Yeah, that's the thing I like. No, so I have a couple of thoughts on this cut. So the first team with Grant's team, grass type, Hearthflame, so the fire one. We'll get there by this weekend, Sierra. Don't worry, I'll figure them out.
Yeah.
That's the fire type Ogerpon. Everyone's loving that. You put it next to Chien Pao, and it's essentially doing what Urshifu and all the Dragapult and all the other Dragonite, just really strong physical attackers next to Chien Pao. The +1 attack boost to Ogerpon when it terrestrializes is just so strong next to Chien Pao. But the Roaring Moon, I think, is the real MVP or the big like winner of Regulation E, gaining knockoff in the DLC, making it much better than Jawlock or any other dark attacks it wants to go for, because really you're probably not going to click a dark attack more than once in a match, so you might as well have the extra power, the extra base power that knockoff provides when they're holding an item, because every other time you're going to click Tailwind or Acrobatics on this set. So I would definitely not be surprised if Roaring Moon rose way higher in the the usage in Regulation E compared to Regulation D, and having that photosynthesis speed booster tailwind, you can get it. It's probably like the fastest non-prankster tailwind we have access to right now if you go speed booster energy. And the other big thought, speaking of prankster, I think Jody pointed out online on Twitter that there are no Tornadus in top 8 of this tournament. And Tornadus was 53% usage in Pittsburgh at the end, in our Regulation D format there. So the fact that these teams are finding ways around needing prankster Tornadus mirrors to work, because you'd argue Ogerpon wants Tailwind too, because it's got 110 speed, so you're facing the other Ogerpon that are also 110 speed, that want to outspeed Fluttermane, outspeed, Iron Bundle and other things that are faster than it. So I am surprised to not see any Tornadus in cut.
They're close
though. The Tornadus should beat the Ogerpon, right? Like that's
if it lands Bleakwind Storm, if it hits.
Yeah, 50% of the time it will.
Exactly.
It feels like an oversight. Like, it feels like people are bored of that, right? Because a lot of people have been playing Tornadoes for a while. But no, I think it'll come back. I don't think it's going to be down in the doldrums for that long.
Yeah,
there's only 2 in top 16. There's 2 Tornadus in top 16. If I'm looking at it correctly,
yeah, there's 2 cultured people in top 16.
Okay. So I'm just saying the fact that there's still the 2 in top 16, because we did have a clean top 8 cut, so no resistance, but 2 Torn at 8 and 4. And I think too, just trying different things out this weekend. I still think going into Peoria, looking down the list, there's still Torn at pretty respectable placements here. So I'd be curious to see if that expands a little bit more. And if it doesn't expand, why exactly not? Because, the speed, if you're going up against these heavy hitters, it kind of just seems like the speed is just so appreciated, right?
Yeah. One thing we saw a little bit in Pittsburgh, and then a lot more in Barcelona, I believe, was the speed booster energy Icy Wind Fluttermane. And I think that might be what people want to go for, because Tornadus really just sets Tailwind and dies, and they want a Pokemon that can actually do more than just the speed control. So something like Fluttermane can set Icy Wind, make their Pokemon faster, win those speed ties between the Ogerpons and the opposing Chien-Paos and things like that. And actually still pack a punch, because Bleakwind Storm misses half the time, so it does 0 damage. It's a spread attack anyway if it does hit, so it's already doing reduced amounts of damage. The also rise of Iron Bundle as well. Iron Bundle is kind of coming back from the dead in this format. People are using it as its Icy Wind user of choice yet again. So I think that those two Paradox Pokemon with speed, booster energy, Icy Wind might also lead to potential downplay in Tornadus usage.
The Flutter Call is actually a really, really good one, because going through and looking at all the Flutters, 80%, 4 out of 5 of the Flutters in top 8, I'm just quickly browsing through, I could be a little bit off on the exact number, 4 of them have Icy Wind on it. So we've kind of really gone away from and they're not even just the choice specs and then just running Icy Wind as the 4th. These are the Protect, they're having the speed boost with having that booster energy with the photosynthesis. So it's interesting to see how we've kind of gone into that form of Fluttermane for that speed control. So interesting.
The Fluttermane choice to Icy Wind is interesting. I've always been intrigued by it, because what do you give up, right? Do you give up Dazzling Gleam? I love a spread move, but you've got to get value out of that Icy Wind every single time, so it's a tough one. I think the Fluttermane is going to keep changing over the course of the year. It's been around for so long, and people are just going to find new ways to play it, so excited to see what they do.
Yeah.
I know, I like Icy Wind, but I don't love giving up your choice of Shadow Ball, Moonblast, or Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, I'm looking through too. I'm kind of curious if the Torn not being quite as dominant as you thought you would have seen here, Joe Brown, is because of the Trick Room teams going around too. Because we go back to, this is a new format, we got a new Pokemon, people love the shiny new toys, and we did get pretty prominent Trick Room Pokemon in Regulation E, looking at that Blood Moon Ursaluna, and just kind of early format seems to be kind of a trick room sort of time. So if you're all in on this fast tailwind team and your opponent's bringing a hard trick room, I mean, that's going to be another reason for it to kind of drop.
And Sinistra, also a good trick room setter and
Yes.
user. And we talked about Sinistra's top 10 usage in the Safari Zone event, and it's a grass type, so we always talk about immune to spore, immune to rage powder, like all the good value that grass type can give you. Its exclusive move is busted, right? Giga Drain and Scald in one move is really good when it connects, obviously. So yeah, I do think that could be exciting to see, like how many, because like I'd probably anticipate the shiny new toy syndrome, that there's gonna be more Blood Moon Ursaluna than regular Ursaluna in this event. Like, as a special attacker, can't get intimidated, right? But the other thing that I noted, just looking at top 8, King Gambit, there are 3 King Gambits. If you want to extend it to 9th place with Carl, there are 4 King Gambit in the top 9 teams right there. And there's a lot of intimidating going on, right? Landorus, Hisuian Arcanine, different things that King Gambit obviously likes. It's a neutral hit into the fairies, and it resists Shadow Ball as well from Fluttermane. So I think that there is like there could be a chance that we're talking about the competitive users in Milotic and Empoleon, but I think King Gambit, like his stocks are going up after this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think King Gambit's been underrated for a while. Honestly, I think it's probably time that we start putting some respect on King Gambit's name, and I would imagine it'll be comfortably in top 8.
And it's also good on Trick Room teams, since you just sucker punch.
Yep.
You don't care about your speed investment.
And it's not even just Intimidate it's good against, but like the Icy Wind as well, if people are using that as their speed control over the Tailwind, because then you just swap a King Gambit and it's like, okay, are you good? Or right out of the gate, it's like, okay, do you want to Icy Wind me? Go ahead, bud. Like, you won't like what's coming next. So I'm intrigued to see what usage stats we're going to be getting out of Peoria weekend, but we'll move on. We'll leave that to next week. There is another big thing out here in the VGC world. Whether you're, I was going to say for competitive users, but whether you're competitive or more casual, considering this is something that everyone could be using, but some really big changes coming to Pokemon Showdown. I would actually say like the biggest that I've seen a long time. Like, these are amazing that we got coming out. First off, we got a queue for best of 3 open team sheet ladder, as opposed to just
open
mandatory
team sheet.
Mandatory best of 3, mandatory open team sheet, as opposed to just asking opponents or people just instant decline the team sheet button because they're trying to hide stuff. Like, that's such a nice tool to get ready for events.
I mean, maybe it's going to help our boy on Love is Blind. Maybe that'll help him buff that rank.
I was going to say, anybody who hasn't played Pokemon, he got into it through our podcast, the odds are very low of that happening. But if that is the case, you too can become nationally ranked on Pokemon Showdown.
In a real format.
In a real format, best of 3, mandatory open team sheets. Like, you could get your numbers up there and then go on Netflix.
What's the crossover between just pure Love is Blind fans and fans of this podcast?
There is more. I love Love is Blind. A hilarious show. As soon as this information came out that there was the nationally ranked Pokemon Showdown player, the amount of people that I've seen like posting or commenting that they also watch the show is like, wait a second, there's more Pokemon people than I thought watching this garbage TV. Like, okay.
Well, Pokemon people are people too, Sierra. So I know it's hard to remember sometimes, but regular people enjoy reality television as well as enjoying Pokemon.
It's just another trash love Netflix show. I didn't think it was like as out there. Like, I didn't think that many people enjoyed it, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, sorry to bring that back up, but I'll get us back to where we were going. Yeah, best of 3 open team sheet is a sick change. Being able to actually test in a similar, identical environment to what you're dealing with, and I think a lot of people undervalue the importance of open team sheet, right? It's been a huge difference maker in our game, and I think being able to actually test that in a best of 3 environment too, because best of 3 is a factor, and we've talked about it multiple times. I think just being able to test that properly is really going to help some players, and maybe that will be what we need to see, some new names at the top. Just being able to understand that.
Honestly, for me, like, I actually think the mandatory open team sheet is the bigger factor than the best of 3, and I'm probably in the minority there. But like, there were so much over the last year of people declining team sheets and just like only winning because they had a random terror that you weren't prepared for, and people were like, oh well, whatever, it's just online, it doesn't matter. Like all the justifications people made for why you don't have to click open team sheets, like it was just always brutal, and it was very tough mentally a lot of times when you're playing on Showdown and you're trying to prepare for a real event, and the website is not actually emulating a real event or the correct format. Like it's supposed to be simulating that format, and it was not doing that, because what we play in person is open team sheet best of 3. And so like people will say, oh, what's the matter? You know what this 6 most common Pokemon do. Like you don't need to know what it is. And it's like, but you do, because you have to hone the skill, right? You're honing a craft of decision making based off of information. So you have to be able, even if you're running a random team in the 1100s on Showdown, like to get up to the higher rank, to get up above Milton's ranking, like you have to be able to hone that skill.
You have to win 2 games,
and you have to learn how to effectively assess open information and what's making the safer, correct play. So you're really not preparing for a real event if you're going to Peoria and we don't have this option anymore. Like people are just playing closed team sheet and have a random fairy Terra or a random choice scarf Pokemon or whatever. That's not going to happen to you in Peoria. So this is actually going to be simulating or emulating your real life experience significantly better. So I definitely applaud, the people in the back end on Showdown have been working really hard for a while to try to get this to become a reality since Scarlet and Violet came out. And now we can let all of the closed team sheet, deniers just lay in their own filth on their own ladder at this point.
I got a couple of thoughts. First off, I will say, because there is obviously a couple people, won't name names, who get a little upset when people don't accept open team sheets on the current ladder. But you gotta remember that Pokemon Showdown is for a lot more than just like the actual competitive player. So like, even if I'm trying to get practice in and people keep declining the team sheets, I do get a little bit of annoyed, but like that ladder is not necessarily for the purpose that I'm looking for. It's just the best that I had in the situation. So they do them. I was really hoping we would get to see an open team sheet ladder so it could be more divided. So people who do just want to decline team sheets and just play Showdown on their phone and just play for fun could have that. We now have a more competitive thing. So I won't get mad at you decliners unless like...
I would disagree with you that it's like, oh, it's different. Like, it's a different... Like, no, it's not. It's VGC regulation A, B, C, D, E. You are emulating the official format. And the official format is currently played with open team sheet and having information on it. So you can play Gen 7 Ranbats and get to your 1200 rating, and that's for...
Mate, Milton's catching strays out there.
Right.
So you can play Showdown and play your Gen 1 OU Ranbats, and that's for fun. But if you are clicking VGC Regulation E, 2023 Regulation E format, you should be emulating the proper format of how the game is played.
But counter argument.
I'm a joke.
Thank you.
But if you're looking at the ranked ladder in the actual game, because of the limitations, that is closed team sheet, including if there's tournaments that are online. Right now, there is just happened, the Kitakami prologue. I have no idea when that is. That's closed team sheets because it's the nature of the limitations of the Switch and the information we have. As well, when there's international challenges, confusing names, the ones that's actually hosted on the Switch, that's also closed team sheet. Do I think people necessarily need to be practicing for closed team sheet in those formats? Maybe not necessarily, but those are all best of one. Those are all closed team sheets, and it doesn't replicate exactly what we have in regulation team open team sheet. So it's just one of those things that like we can have the different opinions, but Showdown adding the open team sheet, the best of 3, just kind of eliminates the need to really have the discussion on like, are people who decline team sheets terrible people? Yes or no? Because now they have their ladder, we have our ladder. Like we're good to go.
To say yes.
You're good. You're good. The other thought I have on why this best of 3 open team sheet ladder though is so amazing is it can be really hard to get really good practice when you're newer to the game, because a lot of people, when you're looking specifically at the best of threes, this is testing done individually in people's own little Discord groups, their group chats or whatnot. So if you're new going to your first event, you might not be able to get that same practice that everyone else is getting, especially if you're only relying on best of one, closed team sheet, showdown stuff. So it's really nice to actually have a dedicated way to practice what you would see at a regional for anyone who's maybe going to their first event and wants to practice what that would be like.
That's a great counterpoint. However, closed team sheet bad. Now you don't have to worry about it. I'll never engage with them again. I'll never know what that Rev room was cooking. I don't need to know.
Oh my goodness. I will say, when I was practicing for my Team Canada tryouts, I went up against this Shelter, Goomy, Grimmsnarl Screens team I wasn't expecting, closed sheet on ladder, and it like mentally destroyed me. Mentally doomed me.
That's what I'm saying.
Right before a game.
Yeah,
but it wasn't their fault. Like, it was just like, it wasn't good practice because the ladder wasn't set up for that good practice. It was just annoyed. I'm swapping over to the best of 3 open team sheet ladder and I'll be good.
Yeah, you could have played on that ladder and not had that mental issue, so.
But I also could have practiced with friends and not have had that issue, you know?
Well, then you have to get friends.
I have friends, all right? I have a couple of them, all right?
I'd say that's the first hurdle. I'm not digging at you. That's been my hurdle throughout
Well,
all the years, is trying to
You don't
get
have friends
to help
What
me
are me and
practice.
Dozz to you then, Joe? What is this?
Yeah, let me just message you in 2015, Sierra. Let me just, ask
Hold
you
on,
for
guys.
some chalk reps.
I don't know why we're arguing about this. Filming's definitely done. I'll be putting my reps in with Milton every night. Open team sheet, baby. Let's go.
We're gonna boost that 1233 rankings through the roofs. We're getting to 1400 easy.
Not when I'm done with him. When I'm done with him, he's gonna be in the thousands.
Oh, poor Milton. Catching strays.
We don't even know the
Yeah,
guy.
What if we get Milton on the
strays.
podcast? How crazy would that be?
I will do the work to try and hook you up with the Milton.
He can clear the story. He can show us his real account, right? That's clearly an alt that, like, he's only played Rand bats on. Like, come on, he's gonna show us the real account. It'll be like today. We had our first OHKO breaking news with Adams retiring today. We can have another exclusive OHKO interview with Milton. Like, oh my god, that would be so good.
That would be
I
pretty
wanna-
fun.
If he comes on, he's got to play a Ranbat though.
Yo, we can Ranbats battle him. We can verse him in Ranbat.
Specifically Gen 7. Because
I don't
that's
Elo-
where he's nationally ranked. So
At an elo of 1200, you can definitely Ransbat.
I feel so bad. He's just gonna personally message one of us after and be like, "Yo, what the
I
heck,
would love
guys?
that.
You were so mean to me."
No, we would be
Dozz kept
we would be
throwing
so
strays.
nice.
I will give him my phone number to message me.
Yeah, no, we would be very nice. We throw some softball questions in there. Who's your favorite Pokemon? He's gonna say Pikachu.
We'll coach you in like VGC. Like you're good. We'll give you
I
a
will
little
say
bit
the
of coaching.
last tweet, he doesn't tweet often. I think Milton would actually help himself if he tweeted more and about like, oh man, that play in Pittsburgh round 10 was sick. Like if he did things like that, he'd help his reputation better. Because his last tweet was like him showing off like a Charizard TCG card, and it's like, okay, do you like Pokemon, or are you posting like what you think people like Charizard TCG cards? Like, come on, like build up
You don't
that
like
social
Charizard
clout.
TCG cards? What's your shirt?
Hey, this is an Ethan Heggy masterpiece right here. Okay, this is not Charizard. This is Ethan's.
He's probably not allowed to post right now. Like he's probably like on like a Netflix lockdown of like.
Yeah.
I think he's got to go to Netflix.
the
Like, my
airing.
reputation as a nationally ranked Pokemon master is getting demolished right now, so I need to defend myself.
So I'm curious on what he can and can't post because, like I said, he retweeted stuff from like Worlds and stuff, and then as Joe said, he's tweeted that Charizard picture. So like, not all the episodes are live yet. So I'm sure there's definitely things like whether he got married or not, like that can't be posted. But he has been active enough to where like he could post his username. He could post a battle. He could lay claim to like this professional
I mean,
Pokemon player.
I could just get nationally ranked like right now. Gen 7 Rambats, like I could just crack that out.
You
could
were
just-
already?
Not Gen 7.
Not Gen 7.
Not Gen 7.
Thanks, dude. I probably have
Oh.
like 3 alt accounts, all nationally ranked. They're probably sitting at like 1030 or something, but like that's nationally ranked.
Nationally
baby.
ranked.
Let's go.
Oh,
So
God.
brutal.
Oh,
All right,
my God.
we'll leave him alone.
We'll
we should leave him
alone.
alone.
We'll talk about the other big Showdown change. This one, I didn't know which change to be more excited for because this one, like, personally speaks to me. This is an issue that I've always had. I'm sure I'm not the only one. There is now server-side team saves on Showdown as opposed to being exclusively like the cookies on like your own computer or whatnot. So you can actually save a team like to your account and use that then on your iPad or your phone or someone else's computer or whatnot, which is amazing. Like I never have the team on the device I want, and it's always a thing. So it's so nice.
Okay, so I work in web development, right? And saving sessions and all these concepts are things very familiar to me. But it just regularly remind me of the Key and Peele sketch where I believe it's Jordan Peele's wife comes home and is like, hey, honey, why every time when I use the computer is there no history and no cookies and no cache? Like, how often you all clearing your cache up in here? Because, like, I don't clear mine that often, and I work in web development. Like,
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Dozz is going after all the Pokemon players today.
Bruh, there's people clearing their cache way too hard. It's like, oh yeah, do you guys remember the advert that came out for private browsing on like Edge? Where it's like when you want to buy her a wedding ring, and the guy's like browsing on his own trying to buy the wedding ring. I was like,
search history.
Yeah, like
I feel like we're diving into dangerous territory on
like, how often you're
right
clearing your cache? Just take the paste. Like, okay, first of all, sick change. Like, I'm glad that you can save it across accounts, whatever. But like, just send yourself the paste.
That's what I do on Discord. Every team that I make that I think has potential, I send a Pokepaste to a friend on Discord. Like, what do you think of this? And then I just scroll.
Is this why you've been hitting me up all the time with pastes, Joe?
No. Do you remember? Okay, hold on. Do you remember our one paste, the most iconic Dozz and Joe team of all time, with Eviolite, Torracat, and Empoleon in Gen 7?
Yep.
It was at Tapu Bulu. It was gas, that team.
We were digging on that paste, but we had it available across all devices. So I have Discord on my phone, I have it on my iPad, I have it on my laptop, I have it on my computer.
Exactly.
See, I don't like if I have a team on one device, I don't put it on the other devices. And I have that first world problem of I have my iPad, and then I have my phone, and I have my laptop, and I have my computer. If I make the team on one, it's not on the other 3. And I don't play Showdown on my laptop very often. And then it was at an event, and Ugarte was like looking at the teams. There was 2 teams, and they were both these trash Slitherwing teams that I've been trying. Because all the teams that I actually had been trying were on my computer at home, and I couldn't access them anymore. So it's nice to have it all in one little, place. I can have whatever team wherever I want, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to pretend to want my friend's opinion on a team and be sending them these team pastes and like asking them their opinion just so I have the logs. I have the team saved. It's all good.
Okay. No, I think from a development perspective, it's a real cool change. I just think you guys need to, not clear cache every week.
As we've learned, Sierra clears her cookies every day, apparently.
I had so many. The teams were bad. I will say,
the defense is getting even better.
There is no defense here. I don't clear it, but I am upset because Ugarte logged me out of my Chrome, and I guess I didn't have everything synced, so it deleted every sign-in, every book after years, every sign-in, every bookmark, everything. And now I have absolutely nothing on my bookmarks thing except for like Twitter, Twitch, and then like 3 recipes that I got sent the other day, and I have to start from scratch, and I'm so sad.
Hey, well, you know what? Instead of bookmarking everything, you could have just sent the hyperlinks to a friend on Discord.
I missed out.
You guys should
Full
see.
circle, baby.
I don't know if you've ever used Slack, but they give you a Slack with yourself.
Yes.
And so the amount of things I send to
I used
myself
to do that
on
all the time,
Slack,
yeah.
personal bookmark, it's great. Like,
I've done that with my documentation stuff on like Facebook. Because Discord, I need to have like the 2-factor, like Facebook it is, but it's not the same factor thing as my Discord. I don't know why, but like my passport, my license, like all that, I've sent it all to myself. I have it. I just didn't do that with like the cookie recipe that I searched up 8 months ago that I swore I would actually make, and then I didn't.
Was it one of those cookie recipes that's like, I was making cookies one day, and I remembered my grandfather who died 26 years ago, and he just loved cookies.
Why is
If only I saved the cookies to my browser.
Yeah.
Why is every every recipe sheet is literally like that? Huh.
Yeah. I had a dog 28 years ago. My dog loved beef.
I'm gonna open up this
But I'm gonna cook pork sausage today. Like, what?
I mean, well,
all
they're
right,
like,
here's
they're
the
kind of
first one.
self-indulgent, right? They're like, here's this thing that means a lot to me, and I want you to know why this recipe means a lot to me. I understand it. It's boring to, like, you just scroll past it, but I can understand why someone is indulging in their hobby that way.
The first recipe that I opened up, it's not like, a heartfelt story, but it does just go too long. So many variations of chicken soup, but I don't have a version that really focuses on sweet potatoes. Since I am a big sweet potato lover, I couldn't resist making a comforting chicken soup with sweet potatoes. And literally, there is like 8 more paragraphs before it actually gets into the first part of the recipe. And then it has more after that.
I'd be more concerned if you did have a pumpkin, soup recipe like on the ready. Like she's also with this first world problem of like, I don't have it ready. It's like, I'd be scared if you did.
Right.
It's not that important.
I haven't eaten a pumpkin soup. I was about to say maybe you don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's the big Showdown changes out there. We'll put this back on track because we have been like this episode. If y'all are still listening to this point in the episode, thank you. You're a real one.
Those are the OHKO truthers still out here listening 2 hours.
Yeah, that's probably my fault. I'll take the heat for that.
Yeah,
I apologize.
we still have a question. I mean,
yeah.
To be fair, when it's even just me and Joe Brown, like we still have an episode that goes an hour 50 minutes. How I don't know, but hey, whatever works. We still have our question of the day too. So this one is coming out from Alex Sanchez. And of course, if you want us to answer your question on the podcast, you can comment on Spotify or in the YouTube comments or on Twitter. Just somehow, if you get the question to us, we'll probably answer it. This question, if you could pick a Pokemon to buff, which would it be and how would you buff it? It's a pretty good question.
So I'll go first here to give Dozz some time to think, and also potentially to steal his answer in case he's going to go with it.
I swear, if you steal this answer, I'm going to be actually
because
livid.
there's I think if I ran for president of the Pokemon community, there's one platform that I would stand on, and it's to stop the complete disrespect towards Tapu Bulu. And everybody, there's like all the Tapus and Bulu, and Bulu stakes, and the other 3 are great, and blah, 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 blah. And the one way to make Bulu great again would be to give it Grassy Glide. And I think a lot of people have this opinion. A lot of people think, but in Gen 8, when Rillaboom came out, Grassy Glide came out, like, oh man, they're going to give Tapu Bulu Grassy Glide. This is going to be amazing. He's going to go from 0 to hero. He'll be all over the format, higher attack than Rillaboom, blah, blah, blah. Nope, nothing. And I'd love that in Gen 9, when the Tapus come back eventually down the road, if he can come back with the Grassy Glide, because why does Ogerpon get Grassy Glide? Like, let Tapu Bulu get Grassy Glide too.
I agree. It's not what I was going with though.
Oh, well, I just know you're a big Tapu Bulu supporter, so.
I am. So mine's a little bit different, and I wrestled with this one on my drive home today from work. Bug types have been disrespected for a real long time, and I'm tired of it. But there's one bug type I want to call out who is just like on the cusp of so good. It's going to be Yanmega. Now, Yanmega, with Tinted Lens, obviously being able to just bust through that issue, would be huge. So there's kind of two ways to buff it, right? I think there's like a genuine fear, like if you just gave it like ultra powerful moves, the initial draft of my answer to this was, very generic, just make bug type cool. But I'm going Yanmega specifically because like Yanmega's bug flying, so it takes on those weaknesses of being bug flying, but it needs a little bit more. And there's just not a move that really gives it that power. It's a special attacker. It's in the 110, like 115 range for special attack. Tinted Lens is not the problem here. So like, let it fly. Let it do its thing. Give it just a couple more like big offensive moves. I mean, your flying type move choices are awful. Just give it a little bit more. I mean, speed boost is fine, but then it's like you're speed boosting with bad moves. So like you're stuck in this like position where it's like speed boost or tinted lens are gonna cause you problems, but just give it better moves. It's gonna get knocked out by a rock slide. That's your trade, right? Is like it's gonna die. It's got terrible defenses. Let it be a glass cannon, and that's my take. It also has Frisk, which is just terrible.
In our
what
open
is
team
that
sheet
as a hidden
world, Frisk
ability?
is pretty bad,
It is.
Yeah. So yeah, that Yanmega's the one that needs a buff for me. Like, don't be scared of tinted lens. Obviously, it's going to speed boost anyway. I don't think you should be limiting it for moves on that regard.
I thought you were going to break out the Heracross when you say your bug types, because I remember we built a cracked Dynamax Heracross team in Gen A, if you remember that. Too.
I do.
Yeah, so I thought Heracross was going to be your choice there.
Well, I mean, Heracross is top of the pile, so it's fine.
Yeah, he's already great,
I'll keep along the make bug type Pokemon cool train.
Slitherwing.
And go for the Slitherwing in a not god-awful typing. So first off, we could have our first bug dragon Pokemon out there. It looks like it could be a really cool bug dragon type Pokemon as opposed to fighting. Like, do you think like Slitherwing is like roundhouse kicking you with like those tiny little feet he's got? Like, no, like the typing doesn't make sense. So first off, make it a better typing. Maybe there's other better typings, but like every Pokemon has to have a weak point. So like just give it the bug dragon. That's going to be good enough. And then also, I don't know, like Slitherwing is like a fluffy boy, right? And its defense is not good. Like its defense sucks. Its speed is in a really weird range. One of them just a little better would be so nice, and like that would be my choice. Like if it could just not crumple out on the field, it would just be like it would be so good. So yeah, that is going to be my choice. I'll pick the make it faster.
I like how Sierra's choice is like, let me just make a whole new Pokemon, but take the carcass of Slitherwing and put it on top. It's Bug Dragon. It's now faster. It takes hits better, but it's still Slitherwing.
If I picked one, I said I would pick speed, but I feel like in our era of terrestrializing, that talking about changing one type isn't that crazy.
But I don't think it was like a dragon type.
It's got a little dragon about it.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It's definitely more suited than fighting. Dragon. What type would you make it, huh?
Well,
if it wasn't bug fighting?
For the first like 4 months of Scarlet and Violet, I thought it was bug fire. So
I actually do trip that. That would be cool.
That's two of us.
I would give it the Volcarona route, and make it bug fire because it's got photosynthesis, so it wants to be in the sun anyway. You then have stab flare blitz where you don't need to terrestrialize into it, it doesn't feel dragon to me. I think it's more fire type than
I'll take a fire type, especially too when I ran it with the 100% win rate on stream Slitherwing team that I had. It was Terra Fire. Specifically too, your Flare Blitz can go kind of nutty in the sun as well. You can't get burnt. Yep. It's just Slitherwing feels bad because without having that fire type like already, it suffers from this is the one Pokemon you have to terrestrialize in the match, kind of no matter what, especially too with its current is just it'll crumble, right?
Wait, Sierra, you reminded me of your 100% win rate Slitherwing in caster battles. I forgot I wanted to ask Dozz this question. How does it feel knowing that you're going to retire with an 0-1 record against me in caster battles? How does that make you feel?
I'm good with it.
I feel like we can.
I had a lot of fun, honestly, on that stage. Like to be completely honest, like. I was never going to get on the stage another way, right? And I think, we had a lot of fun. I really hope there's a secret tape of the rest of our conversation that we had. And maybe one day, like when you're done casting too, just for your benefit, maybe we can release that tape.
There was some spicy things said back and forth.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Hey, the caster battles are fun because my only time on stage before that was a not great experience. But all you have to do, Dozz, is literally have your anime training arc in the background. You're still like Bob, like you're not completely gone, and then just one day, like, bam, challenge him to another caster battle on stream, and then absolutely like 2-0 demolish him. Get your revenge.
I will be. I mean, the chances are I'll be backstage anyway, so I'll just be putting in some secret reps, and maybe one day when we get desperate for content in a lunch break, we'll bring it back. But I don't see it in the near future because I'm trying to learn about 10 things for production.
We'll give you some time. We'll give you some time.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that Joe Brown forgets this conversation first before that happens, right? So we'll put it on the back burner.
I'm good with that.
Perfect.
That might be the only cast battle I ever win in my life. I'm being honest with you. I feel like the next time I do a cast battle, like if it's 2 years from now, I'm just gonna get stomped as retribution for my Moonroom team.
I'm gonna challenge you to a caster battle the second that we can. I don't like. Well, the next event we're working.
Okay.
We'll have to figure that out. I
I'll support
will
it.
definitely not bring Slither. I actually probably won't. It's kind of not good right now, but we'll see. Maybe I will. But we'll see. Then I could be 1-0 against you as well.
I would put my money on you. Yeah. Well, even Siri doesn't agree with you.
I know.
Siri doesn't understand.
Siri's coming at me.
Siri's like, you see that Moonroom team, Sierra?
Oh my! All right, that's where we're ending it. I'm done after that disrespect. But anyone who's made it to this point, thanks again. Your support is always so much appreciated. Dozz, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and letting Joe Brown be selfish with all of his questions and also going down your trip down memory road.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for letting me come on and do this. Obviously, I've kind of stepped away from social media, so being able to explain it with you guys was honestly very, very nice, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity. If anyone does have questions, you'll see me at events and you can ask me them there.
Fair, but it's exciting that you're not leaving the space entirely, so definitely look forward to working with you down the line. Looking forward to beating Joe Brown in a caster battle down the line. But thanks again, everyone. Anyone who is traveling to Peoria Regionals, safe travels, best of luck at the event. We cannot wait. It's going to be such a great time. This is the end of this episode of OHKO. We'll see you next week.